it's Coach Tori, and this is Raising Runners. We talk running, fitness, mental health, and so many more topics. As the founder of a youth running program, I approach all of our conversations with our youth athletes in mind and kind of have a focus around those things. But as you will see, we are finding that all of these topics relate to runners and people who like to move and do fitness or anything like that. Relates to everybody. Check it out. Hey, it's Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And this is Raising Runners. After we just said that, it was like, all of a sudden I forgot. And I'm like, let me just plow through the whole thing. Oops. Hi.
Hi.
This is our, third or fourth one of these?
I think I'd say four.
Debate? Four? All right. Yeah. Four of 5 or 6. So if you hate these, we're halfway done or more. If you like them.
I think we're going to be quicker today. I'm going to be crisp.
Yes, precise, to the point, maybe a little bit shorter of an episode.
Hopefully. I mean, sure. Not hopefully. I'm not looking to get off, but I also know that people aren't always looking to listen to an hour.
I know. Yeah, and we've been pushing the limit. So as we're just rambling now, maybe I'll have to cut all that out. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about 3 new topics. We're going to do group running versus solo running. We're going to talk about racecation or vacation for racing, or not doing that. There was not a good term for not running on vacation. I guess running locally, racing locally only. And then running in extreme weather. Is it foolish or is it brave? I don't know. I feel like last week we talked about not being super excited about these topics. I am still not super excited about these topics. They don't seem like, I don't know, anything that exciting to me.
After researching, I kind of like the topics now. I mean, after doing some research, I'm like, oh, is there a lot of substance there? The racecation, I sort of went to a mode of, is it a good idea or a bad idea to do a racecation?
Okay.
So versus is it, I don't know. There's different ways you can look at that, but I went with either is it good or is it bad to do it? And to me, that made it different for me and the feel for it. But anyway, we can get into it in a couple minutes.
Yeah. Also, little update for people who are tired of just hearing us. We at least have one guest on the books in the near future. Hoping to be able to open that up a little bit more for some more people as time allows, but it's definitely still going to be majority just us. But for people who are give us some new info.
Yay! Not just us. It's yay! It's us.
Right. Exactly. All of that.
Not distracted by other people.
Yeah. I know we're going to do a little bit of coaching chat, but because we were just complaining about, I was just complaining about the weather. I was thinking also, cold weather running tips, because we live in PA, so it's super chilly in the wintertime here. I know there's much colder places, but we do get some extremes in the weather. So it's getting cold. This is our first cold week, I would say, and it's seeming like it's kind of staying this way. So I know you get to have the luxury of escaping the cold. But how do you run in the cold? Do you have any cold running tips?
Besides just leaving? Yeah, I think running in the cold for me, it's all about bundling up in a bunch of layers, right? So I don't like being cold. So I don't, and I don't mind getting a little hot during the run, and you can sort of slow down and cool down. So yeah, I don't, I'm a warm weather guy, but I would say, yeah, bundle up and do it in layers. So if you have to shed some things, shed them. It's very rarely too cold around here to run, I would say. I mean, if you really bundle up. Because I wear you have the cold weather gear, from Under Armour. I have that.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't necessarily like that stuff, but if you put it in, and have as your base layer, it is a huge help. If it's your only layer, it feels cold to me.
Yeah, agreed. Layers, definitely. I'm a big layers fan. Oh, were you done? I just started going.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah. That's all. I was already repeating myself, so I'm done.
Yeah, layers for sure. I would definitely say, because we have
wet cold, I think, often. I know sometimes like the drier cold feels different too. I'm big on always wearing a hat. If it's below 50, hat. My ears are gonna hurt. I need a hat or ear bands. I like to do like a waterproof shell. I feel like that kind of helps with keeping you a little toastier. I recently, in the past couple of years, have invested in fleece lined sweatpants, and like you definitely don't look cool wearing them at all, because like they add like inches, around your, so you just like look like so frumpy, which is, who cares, but they are great. I was like sweating all winter wearing those, which was amazing.
They sound kind of bulky though. Are they hard to run in?
It's like you're definitely not sprinting in them for sure. But for like an easy run, they're pretty great. I'm pretty sensitive to the cold, so I do 60 minutes or less. Well, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of winters. This winter, I'm planning on doing potentially training for some longer running in the spring, so I might have to do more than that, but I do usually keep it under 60 minutes as it's getting colder, like 20 or below. My lungs just like don't do well. I get bronchitis. I think ever since I stopped doing like running longer runs outside, I stopped getting bronchitis every winter. So there's that. What else? Warming up. I know now I have like a long list. I was thinking because I was just jogging in the shed before this. And I was like, my gosh, it's cold. So I was thinking about this. Warming up inside is another, I think, huge, for me at least, game changer. I used to do like the bike inside years and years ago when I had the bike actually in the house. So just get on there some leisurely couple minutes on the bike. Now I'll do like air squats and some lunges or something, jumping jacks, anything to like get you actually feeling hot before going outside. Those are my tips. And then shower right after, so you're not cold for the rest of the day.
Okay, so since we're on the theme of cold, I was starting to consider taking like those cold plunges, like putting ice in like a bath and doing that for. Have you ever done that?
We did that in high school, cross country and track, I guess. We did that then. And then in college, the like athletics department, they were like against giving people ice pretty much for anything because of like it tenses up your muscles and stuff. So then it kind of just like went away, and now I'm like, where am I going to do a cold plunge? But I know people still really do it and really like it. I know there's like kind of like everything else, right? There's like some people are like, it's worth it. Some people are saying it doesn't do anything. I feel like a lot of it could be just like a mental, like it feels nice. It's a good way to recover. I know Katie just did it as she was preparing for our half marathon last month. Okay. So she's still big on the ice baths.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly talk a lot about the recovery aspects of it, as well as the immune system boost that you get from it. So, I mean, I don't get sick that often, but knock wood. But I'm doing a lot of training, so I am looking at the recovery side and saying maybe I should just bite the bullet. I've tried like cold showers, and they so uncomfortable. I can't imagine how much more uncomfortable a cold bath is going to be. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think you get used to, but yeah, it doesn't seem like fun. And then you have to be careful because it's like you're in there too long, then you're like doing damage. So yeah, it is. I don't know. I think it's worth trying. Nice experiment.
Okay, I'll give it a try sometime in the next couple of weeks, maybe. Are we on to Coach's Corner? Or are we going to go through the debates?
Let's Coach's Corner before my brain turns to like goo and I can't formulate an answer at all.
Well, good. Since you're the coach, I get to ask you a couple questions then. So my first question is around intervals. So I currently and have historically done like one speed workout a week. And for me, it's always been either a quarter mile or a half mile interval and a repeat cycle, maybe somewhere between 5 to 8 intervals. So, but that, it's pretty short of a run. It's pretty intense. And that's what I've been doing this week as well, or last week. I do 2 sets of intervals, Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon. But the same setup, I get a little tired doing the same thing over and over again. That's where I'm at. So I'm looking for some other ideas on, besides just my half mile repeats. like what else could I sprinkle in instead of another round of half mile repeats the day after?
Yeah, well, and also that is what I'm working on for you actually this week, putting that on your calendar. But I was trying to input all of your, anyway, other data stuff, and it was like all taking forever. So it's not on there yet. But we currently still do speed workouts every Tuesday. And I know we kind of talked about the answer being like talking about other kinds of workouts like tempo or threshold runs, which we can get into, but also just other intervals. I'm pretty big on, I think that can be super fun. So switching up the distance, doing kilometer repeats, doing mile repeats, doing a pyramid where you're building up and down, or just a ladder, building either up or building down in distance and speed. Those can be really fun to just kind of keep you engaged as well. So changing up some of those things, getting more used to like even increasing and decreasing your speed. You're becoming more aware of like how all of that feels too, which is like, again, just a different stimulus, can be fun to do. With intervals, also people who like doing interval workouts, you can change what your rest is and how you're doing your rest. So if you're doing a jogging rest, if the amount of rest is shorter or longer, if you're doing a standing rest, all those things can change your workout. So those are different ideas for people looking to mix up their intervals, even if they're like, I love doing my half mile repeats or whatever it is. You can change those things. And like I just try to itch the outside of my headphone. For anyone who's not looking, I had an itch on my ear, but I forgot I was wearing headphones. Yeah, so you can change all of that stuff and still get a different workout. I lost my train of thought with those.
Yeah. So I think so for me, I guess what I feel like I'm experiencing is I do 80% of my runs, as you know, I'm an 80-20 guy, right? So 80% of the runs are those slow, easy runs. And that only leaves me about 10 miles of speed work. I break it into 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. But it feels like when I'm doing half mile repeats, I'm going some such extremes. I'm doing like a 10-mile long run on Sunday, but then I'm going to a sprint, and a sprint's a wrong term for a half mile for me, but a very relatively short run at a high speed. And I'm looking for maybe like something in between, right, where I can get like a longer run at a higher rate, but not necessarily half mile pace, because it just seems like it's like two extremes for me. I need something in the middle where it's not a 10-mile easy run and not a half mile repeat. Just something else to complement, because I'm still going to do the half mile repeats on Tuesday. It's really the Thursday workout. I'm trying to break it up into something different.
Yeah, well, and that's when we're talking about the tempo or threshold runs, which are similar but slightly different. But I think sometimes people are using that term interchangeably. But I think technically you're looking at the threshold run, which is just below your threshold level. Gets into all the sciencey stuff. I'm not a super sciencey coach, so I don't even go there. But that is going to be those longer, or sorry, the tempo is going to be longer in duration usually than your threshold runs, but you're both going to be more of like a sustained pace that you're doing. So it's quicker than you're doing your easy runs. It's quicker than you're doing your longer runs, but you're going to be doing a couple miles up to like 6 or 7 at that quicker pace. And again, those paces are going to vary completely depending on who you are. So if you have a coach, ask them what your paces are going to look like. And those kinds of things can also be put into other kinds of workouts. So a lot of people, as they are getting closer, not always in base building for their training, but closer to, their race or anything like that, they're probably going to be doing a lot more of those tempo runs. And those are going to be things where you can even do like a mile or 2 miles and then get into your tempo and then do another mile or 2 miles. So you're also adding those easy runs around it as well. So those are just different ways to mix it up too. So it doesn't have to just be your tempo workout, you warm up, tempo workout, done, which you can totally do. But you can also change it by putting it in between another workout as well.
All right. Well, that sounds perfect, because my watch does have a threshold number. I don't recall what it is, but it does have one. So I'm trying to operate sort of just below that threshold number for sort of, and I'm sure it varies depending on what type of race you're doing, but in the 6 to 7 mile range. And again, it sounds perfect, because what my experience has been, doing those long, slow ones and then doing the really short, fast ones. Then you get to a race where it's a half marathon or marathon. Like, okay, well those two things I did, maybe they help you for this, but it's like, I need something more sustained where I can say, okay, I've run 10 miles relatively hard. So it gives me more confidence going into like a marathon or half marathon.
Oh, totally. And that's why, like, just, I mean, even doing that as a workout is going to be tough, but also, again, like you said, give you confidence. But then also being able to put them into a longer run, or put, them closer to the end of a longer run or something. So then you feel like, okay, I've already done a couple miles. I can still hold this pace after doing a couple miles, or I can still run a couple miles after doing this pace. And so, yeah, again, it just kind of helps prep you for your race. And it's also just good because it's going to make you a fitter, better runner in general.
Perfect. All right. Well, then I look forward to, so I'll take this advice and I'll run it tomorrow and I'll let you know how it goes.
Are you actually running a workout like that tomorrow?
I am. I'll do the, tempo or threshold run tomorrow. So that's, again, my second speed day is on Thursdays. So.
Right. I know that is, I'm going to, that's actually good. You're going to have it because I haven't put all of your zones into the thing to help, because I'm going to have it synced to your watch for coaching. Okay. Sorry, this is like boring coaching chat. So it helps at least remind you where you're supposed to be. So it'll be nice to see what is coming up data wise.
Okay. Not perfect. Yeah. My watch keeps telling me like to take the day off. It's like every time I go to do workouts, like, oh, it should be a rest day for you. I'm like, no, every day can't be a rest day.
We talked about that last week, right? When we were talking about the technology.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's and again, I get it because I'm also coming off of like a month or 2 months of not doing anything. So it thinks like, oh, you've never run before, because I just got the watch relatively recent. All right. Anyway, my second question. Second question is in the weight training side of things, right? So I do that 3 days a week. I do a bunch of leg things. So as I look at my leg list, I do squats. And these are not true squats. I'm doing like dumbbell squats, right? So I'm not doing a barbell on my back. I do a trap bar deadlift, which again is sort of a modified deadlift. So it's where that your hands are sort of by your side. You're familiar with trap bar. It's like sort of a hexagon shape that you stand inside of. But it gives you sort of a deadlift motion, but it's not as challenging technically as a deadlift. Calf raises, and I added those only based on, I think it was Coach
Ellen.
T. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say, I thought Ellen had said that, Coach Ellen.
Yeah. Okay, it may have been. Yeah, someone told me to do, like, someone said on your podcast, like, calf raises was a game changer for him, so I put that in. I also do farmer's carries, which, for anyone who doesn't know what those are really different names for the same exercise, but basically carrying dumbbells by your side and walking. I'm not sure why they're called farmer carries, but that's what name is in the app I use.
Wait, you're not sure that's why? Because picture a farmer carrying buckets of water to the animals or food.
Okay, all right, that's it. All right, that's exactly what it looks like when I'm walking with these two dumbbells down my driveway. And so I'm looking to add like one more thing maybe in that's going to complement those. So I do a bunch of upper body stuff too, but I think probably the lower body is more critical for running.
Oh, for sure. Well, thinking back to one of the episodes we recently did with Brian Ellis, ultra runner, who hopefully did well in his most recent race. He talked about lunges being like his secret weapon. So
2000, I believe he said that's like his workout, 2000 lunges, if I'm not mistaken.
I know, that's like so Bruce Lee of him, I feel like.
I'm assuming that he must is that like a 2,000 in a day? It must be no weight, I'm assuming. Like these must be body weight lunges. I don't know. I'll have to go to his site.
Yeah, I'm sure he has a video on his lunge routine. But yeah, lunges are great because with running, we want to do when we're strength training. It's great doing like squats, deadlifts, all that stuff, but anything we can do single leg is going to help because we're going to be able to compensate or not compensate for imbalances, right? So anything we can do that way, it's going to be helpful. So lunges kind of are just already naturally that way. And it's super scalable. Lots of people can do just a regular lunge, but there's also so many other options. So you can do, the regular step out walking lunge. You can do that with dumbbells. You can do that with a barbell on your back. You can do that with a kettlebell. You can do it with in an overhead position. So there's lots of different options just on where weight would be. You can do reverse lunges, which are going to feel a little bit different stimulus. You can do side lunges, you can do not necessarily a lunge, but like a step up is similar to a lunge. You can do that with weights. So pretty much anything lunge wise, obviously, is a great addition because it is versatile. You can kind of change it up a little bit, and it's going to help you. I don't know if you do lunges at all anymore, or at any point in your routine, but like I can feel the difference in like my legs are so kind of just like all over the place. It's like, okay, this one is way stronger than the other one. So getting to work on that kind of stuff.
So if you have imbalances, it'll help with that. Because pretty much all of my exercises are sort of the two legs at one time. So it's not, you don't get that sort of unilateral movement at all. So the only one I was doing was Bulgarian split squats, which is a very much a single leg.
Yeah.
Almost lunge-like.
Right.
But I've taken that out because I didn't like it. But yeah, I'll put the lunge in and see how that goes.
Yeah, I would definitely say add the lunge, and then as you're comfortable with that, add some weight. And then again, like you have the weight, you only do one. If you're doing dumbbells, you could dumbbell in one hand, dumbbell in the other hand. So then you're also adding that core stabilization as well, which is super important for running too. So the lunge is kind of perfect for all kinds of things that it's able to help with. And you're using, a lot of muscles with the lunge. So
okay, no, that's perfect. I'll add that one to the routine. I got about 10 different exercises I do, and I'll add that one in as number 11.
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say, and then I think I also sent you a video for the Myrtle routine, which is a lot of hip stuff, but not to just go off on a whole tangent. But hip, glutes, all that stuff is great as well. I'm sure I'll try to link some of these.
Yeah, I'll have to find those videos because I saw another message where you sent me some videos, I thought, but then I couldn't find them. So again, maybe me being technically challenged. I don't know if is it in the app?
It should be in the app. I don't know if what it always looks like on a phone though. So it might only look right on the computer.
Okay, yeah, because I saw your comment talking about like, hey, these videos. Well, but there was no link to a video. There was no video attached. So anyway, I'm sure it's me somewhere in the app. It's in there. I'll find it.
I'll be working on all that this week though, so I'll make sure it's updated, and then not to have everyone have to listen to us figure out our coaching logistics. Any other questions? Are we ready to get into it?
Let's get into it. Let's go solo versus group run. And you know what? I'm not going to flip a coin today. You get to choose.
Oh, geez.
Oh, you don't want to choose? You want to defer? You have the choice of choosing or deferring.
No, I could choose. Oh, wow. Okay, why'd I say that and then not
pick? This is the part where you choose.
Right. Go now. I'm gonna pick group run, even though I literally never run in a group, but I think I just always want to. So I'll pick group run.
Good, because I wanted solo. I'm ready for you.
Well, there you go. Actually, I should have made you argue group run since you're not a group running person.
I'm not a group runner at all. I hate groups.
Well, as a person who occasionally runs in groups and likes to run in a group, but does not get to, I will continue talking about group running. And also I'm always advocating for running being like the social part of it is the best. The community is the best. So it just kind of tracks. I haven't talked about that in a while. For anybody who hasn't heard me say this in weeks and weeks and weeks, the community of running is so amazing. Everybody is so nice. And that is like my favorite part about running. Continuing on. Well, okay, running in groups, people need connection. People need social interactions. Even us introverts, an extreme introvert here talking, you need to actually see people, have people know you exist in the world. It is part of like our nature, our being. So running in a group is a great way to get that in. And at least I find it not to be too draining on your social battery, because if you don't really want to talk, you actually don't have to talk so much because you are just running and breathing and focusing on what you're doing. So there's that. And people who like to talk, there's going to be somebody in a running group that also wants to chat. So you kind of get best of both worlds. Whatever you're kind of feeling for the day, I'm sure you'll find someone to chat. It can help improve performance. I don't necessarily see this so much with running, again, mostly because I don't get to run in a group too often, but anytime I do like a CrossFit workout or something, I think I'm fit-ish when I'm working out by myself. The second somebody else comes in and I'm working with at least one or two more other people, I'm like, oh, I have not been working very hard. So you do see oftentimes an improved performance when you are with other people. They can hold you accountable on pacing, distance. It's kind of easier just to keep doing stuff when other people are there. So, you can see some benefits there. Were you about to interject on my?
Yeah, I was about to interject on that one because I actually like that one. I wasn't going to disagree with you because I'm a introvert. I'm a solo guy. In fact, it's been 10 days. I don't know that the only people I've interacted with is the person at Panera when I've gotten my coffee, and it was just to get my coffee. Like, hey, can I have a cup? But that's pretty much it for 10 days. So I'm okay with that without people. But I would say that to your point of the socialization and the talking and the performance, that I do find like even like the lifting workouts I'm doing solo, that I don't know that I'm always pushing myself the way I should be. And I do think that having someone else there can elevate your performance so that you do get like every rep matters, every exercise, you don't just go through the motions like, it's the same weight I did last time. It is nice to have someone to push you to do that, because I do find myself to just questioning like, okay, was that really as hard as that it should have been? It should have been harder to do this particular exercise. So anyway, I'm just going to echo your point.
Yeah.
In a long-winded way.
But yeah, so I mean, like I kind of said about the group, right? Running with other people can help pass the time. It can distract you. Lots of people, as they're doing like marathon training and longer distance training, at least will meet up with someone for parts of the run, just because it is going to make it feel so much easier to run with someone. But then also some people who are so used to running by yourself, then you get into a race setting and you don't know how to run your own pace. So again, it's also good to practice running with other people, being able to kind of not get caught up in other people's movements and running. And so that's, again, like something that's decent to practice if you are going to be ever running around other human beings as well. Promotes consistency as well. I know the few times that I've been like the run group leader too. It's like, okay, I actually have to show up today to lead the running group. So it does help you be more accountable and consistent. You always know like, okay, Sundays are our long run days. Sundays are the day I meet up with the group. And it kind of just helps you in that way stick to your schedule. When I think sometimes if there's no one we know that's going to notice we missed it, it's going to be like, there's so many excuses not to do it. Again, there can be good excuses not to run, but I think sometimes we find ones that it's like, that's not necessary. And then the biggest reason, at least for me, and this is why the running group that I'm sometimes a part of that I never get to go to was all started, is safety. So running in a group provides much more safety than running by yourself for the most part. Not even, I mean, it might just be like a perceived safety for yourself, but also just perceived, you're not alone. Someone's going to know where you are. Even if things go awry, that people knew you were there, it's easier just for everything, not to get all into like safety stuff, but there's so many reasons why running in a group can be safer. So that is probably all I'm going to say on group running.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I certainly wouldn't argue with safety. I mean, I know for women, it's a much bigger issue than men. It doesn't really cross my mind when I run. I mean, I do run at night once in a great while. It's not a fear. I mean, I guess if I get hit by a car, or, it could be like, okay, where's Jeff? He's been gone for a couple of hours. Like, okay.
Right.
But yeah, like you as a guy, you just don't have that same sense of sort of like you could be a victim of an attack of some sort. So I won't argue with safety, but I will argue a few other points. So I would say for me as a solo runner, what I really like is, one, even though I may have a pace I want to go out at and run, like sometimes you just don't feel that way. And when you get out there, you feel maybe better or you feel worse. And you feel more comfortable at a different pace. So I like setting my own pace. I like to look at my watch and see what my metrics are and decide whether I want to go harder or lighter. And with somebody else, you just don't get that option, or at least you're imposing your pace on them, or vice versa. And timetable is the other thing as a solo runner I like, and that is like I never miss a workout, pretty much never miss a workout. But I also don't have a set time I do it. Like I get up in the morning. Sometimes I do it first thing in the morning. Sometimes I'll go grab my coffee, which is more likely the case, go grab my coffee, have the coffee, and then do it at 10 o'clock versus what I thought might be 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So I do like that flexibility, which you do not have if you have somebody else who's counting on you, or at least, you won't have a group running anymore if you keep not showing up to it. So that's sort of on the personal side. I think, when you're running with other people, I think you don't get that opportunity to sort of think about yourself, think about your running form, think about your breathing. There's a mental toughness that comes with running solo. I do think, like you said, running with other people, you can get distracted, and you can, the run can go by a little easier, and sometimes that's great. But other times where you're looking for just to strengthen your mental toughness and be really present, be comfortable with the uncomfortableness of running. Being solo really helps with that stuff. I think being solo, there's two sides to being solo. One is it does give you some me time, right? So you can, if you decide not to run with music, as we went through before, it does give you a whole lot of time to think about a lot of things, big things or small things in your life. And sometimes you can work some things out. And I don't know, man, this is gonna sound bad, but I really don't want to hear about someone else's problems. Like, like if you're running and some guy's just talking about like his bad day yesterday, and it's like, dude, man, you're bringing me down. I don't know. That sounds terrible.
That
Like,
sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible. So I know you're not going to edit that out, but I realize it sounds terrible as I say it, but I still don't really want to hear about other people's problems while I'm running. I'm happy to hear about other people's problems and solve problems and talk about them and give advice, but not when I'm running. And the last thing I think is when you're with a group, you can also, the other side of improving your performance, right, was just pushing yourself to a different pace than maybe you really wanted to, is that little nagging foot injury that you were feeling in that first mile. You sort of say, well, I'm not going to slow down. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep the pace. And now it's hurting more and more. And now you've got now you have a serious injury by the end of 10 miles that you ran with your friend. I don't know if that's a huge risk. If you've got an injury, you got to be able to say like, hey, I'm not feeling it today. You go ahead. I'll catch you later. But I do think there's a little risk of overlooking maybe that small pain for the risk of like, I don't want to stop my friend from running and help me back home. So those are my points. I'm going to say, it sounds like both of us are introverts and solo runners, but I'm going to guess there are I do see a lot of group runners, and I'm going to guess there's a lot of people that aren't like me.
Yeah, I mean, two things to say about solo running, or maybe even just, I guess it's more about group running. But I can't totally relate to the not wanting to listen to people's problems, but in terms of anxiety around what to say to people, like I've noticed a bunch where I'm, running in a group or whatever, and I'm talking because it seems weird not to be talking. And then I'm like, oh, if you don't want me to be talking, I can just be quiet. So then I'm like forcing them to either say it's fine.
They have to say like, oh, say no.
I don't want to talk. Right. So then it's just like, it's just like, now I'm uncomfortable. I'm making someone else probably uncomfortable, like all those things. And it's just like, why are we so anxious? And then another thing I know people often say, especially those introverted people, like not knowing anybody in the group, like the whole, not everybody's just ready to like show up to a group run and be like, I don't know how far they're running. I don't know how fast they're running. I don't know anybody who's running, and I'm just here for the ride. Right. So like, even just that anxiety around like trying to join a group can be really hard for people. And I know a lot of running groups try to be like as inclusive as possible, but it can be hard to make people know that like, yes, we're going to accept you. No, you don't have to run a certain distance. No, you don't have to run a certain pace. I see a lot of groups now, like advertising is probably the wrong word, but like letting people know, like, you don't have to, this is how far we're going to run. This is the pacing that we expect. Or I know the one group, they're always talking about how like, it's a no drop group. So like, they always make sure whoever's the slowest person's always running with somebody. So just like other things to try to alleviate that stress of joining a group, because there are so many great benefits to group running, but it can be really hard to like get in the door to that. So just, I guess, actually another thing about group running that kind of makes group running positive still.
Yeah, I would say group running is the way to go. I mean, again, I'm not a group runner, but I'm going to admit that group running has got a lot more benefits than just the running aspect of it. I mean, not like I don't like people. I do like people. Don't get me wrong. So I do think there's a huge social aspect to it. That's, doing something difficult with somebody else is fun. It's bonding, right? It can bond people together that wouldn't necessarily otherwise be bonded. So I think I do say group running is probably the right answer. And at least for most people, I think you should try group running to start with. And if you find yourself you didn't like it for whatever reason, maybe pull back and go solo. So
That's
I'm gonna
great
give you
advice.
I'm gonna give you the check mark today for the group run.
Group running wins. All right, moving on because I have
Racecation.
Racecation. All right, good idea. Worst mistake of your life.
Yes.
Wow. Dramatic. Anybody?
Your choice. Again, this is your day. This is all about you today.
Wow.
So you
okay.
can choose to pick or not pick. And if you want to pick whatever side you want. I'm feeling good about this one.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right, then you pick because I don't really have an anything either way.
I'm going to say no racecation.
All right.
Is it raycation? Shouldn't it just be raycation, not racecation? But anyway.
Yeah, probably. I don't love words like that where we make fake words combined. What? It's like not my favorite thing.
No, I know when you get like a couple that they've combined their names together. Yes,
the worst.
It is the worst. I'm going to go with the cons to racecation.
All right, let's hear why it's the
worst mistake of your life.
Let's go.
Even though, by the way, for the record, just so you don't get confused here or feel that maybe I didn't like our vacations. Some of my favorite vacations were with you, like going to Seattle, running the 10K and that huge hill.
Yeah.
In Florida, doing the half marathon, Las Vegas. I mean, those vacations, what I remember is the runs. I don't remember the other things. So I know that's a commercial for these racecations, but I'm saying no, it's a real con though. And the con being is one, if you to do it just as a run, I would say is pretty expensive for people. Like you're saying, like, oh, like let's go do a vacation. Let's go do a vacation when we're running. And if it's not someplace that you really wanted to go and you're just going for the run, I do think that's an expensive day when you can do your run locally. There's a lot of runs locally. There's a lot of runs in the Philadelphia area or any area that you're in. You can find a run. So for those who can't afford like an extra vacation, I do think it's an unnecessary expense that you can do your race locally and you can do your vacation. I do think the other side of this is not everyone's into running. And like in our case, we're talking about running, right? So like, unless your partner's as into running as you are, to me, it feels like, oh, let's go do a race together, or I'm going to go do a race and you're going to come with me and we're going to go see, Colorado while I do a run. It feels like you're imposing your lifestyle on somebody else and you're probably ruining their vacation. So you're like, okay, you used one of our vacation weeks and all I got out of it was watching you run around the mountain for 6 hours. And while I took care of the kid and, they're screaming and you're out running, having fun and you're training, it seems like maybe I think we should be sensitive to that it does impose upon other people. Now I'm going to get into some nuance, right? So one is like if it's a fly vacation and you're a serious runner, you could end up with jet lag, right? So you're saying, okay, I'm going to go fly to the West Coast to go do my, a marathon in Seattle, Washington. And, I think if you're really serious and you want to have your best performance, flying 3 time zones away may impact your performance. It also may impact how you enjoy your vacation. So if you're going out there to do a marathon, do you want to go walk around Seattle? So for example, by the way, if you remember, we got lost, thanks to me, in Seattle doing our, the check-in wasn't ready. So we went out for a walk, saw the Space Needle and we came, for whatever reason, I got us to a different street that I thought we were going to. And anyway, we walked around for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yes, the biggest hill ever.
That would have been terrible if we were doing like a marathon like a day later, right? So I think that's a risk that you run is, do you want to Are you gonna say, well, hey, I just want to hang around the hotel and rest my legs all day? Like, okay, that's not real fun for the other person. My last point would be food. So depending on where you're going, like I'm a guy who's a meal prepper. So I think probably 90% of my meals in the last 10 days I've eaten here at the house from stuff I made. Like I made, like 20 meals the first day, and I just been eating those every day. Um, so if you, but so I'm used to like sort of home cooked meals, and if I'm going to like another town, let's just pick Seattle, or let's go to Mexico or somewhere, and I'm eating now a different diet than I'm used to, that could have some bad impacts while you're running. Then the marathon, mile 10, you start to feel that like, ooh, oh, something's not right. I don't know that I feel perfect. I better just keep an eye on where those porta potties are because it could be a problem. So no one wants that to happen. I know you experienced, not personally, but you were running behind somebody who experienced that same thing in Philadelphia. Um, so yeah, so you know that people can have problems when they're running. That's it. That's my argument for why racecation should be just do your race, do your vacation, keep them separate. You don't need to combine them, just like you don't need to combine your name and your girlfriend, boyfriend's name into one name.
First of all, thanks for clarifying that like I didn't have a bowel issue
Yes,
in the race so far. When you said that, I was like, wait, me? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. As I started to say that, I did realize like, okay, that sounds terrible. No, it wasn't you.
Yes. And if it was me, I would admit that, unfortunately. If it ever came up, I really hope it would never. But no, yes, bowel issues, I can't even imagine. But anyway, so racecations. Well, I mean, you kind of said it in the opening of yours. Best vacations we've probably had. We've done a couple in Florida, Grand Canyon or Las Vegas, somewhere in that realm. Seattle. Was that it? I guess so, huh?
I think so. I think it's been those 3 or 4. Was there another one? No, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's probably it. But yeah, super fun. I mean, Run Disney sells out like every event they ever do, and people are always traveling for that. So I think that's a pretty good, I guess, barometer of like people love traveling for their races. And then, those big marathons, all of our major marathons, like there's people from all over the world coming to run Boston, Chicago, like New York, all those things. So people love traveling for races, whether it's for actually their vacation or if it's just traveling for the race. Because there's just a different kind of atmosphere that you wouldn't get to experience if you never traveled. We're lucky that we live near Philadelphia where they put on a lot of amazing races, but you live somewhere else you only have like some smaller events, you might never get to experience a huge race with tens of thousands of people or whatever it is. The crowd's just constantly cheering you on if you don't travel to see it. So it really is an experience that you won't get to see for some people if you don't travel. And also it's a great excuse to go on a vacation. And I think some of us who are not like relaxing type people, it's kind of like, what am I going to do if I'm going to go to the beach for a week? It's like plan to do a run, right? So you have something to keep you occupied that's not like visiting, some weird rundown amusement park that's dangerous or something, right? So that's a good reason to go. There's also now, I don't know if you've seen these. I feel like you probably wouldn't actually. I was gonna say maybe you would go to a running retreat. Maybe that's not really your style, but
no, I would definitely do that if it is what it sounds like it might be.
Yeah, well, so it's like probably groups of people that with like plan activities, but yeah, so like now they have all of these running retreats popping up in different places. You go to some beautiful place in the woods or whatever, and there's like different runs planned in the morning, easy runs, workouts, trail runs, hill runs, and they also plan out a lot of different like recovery activities and stuff. So it's like most of them I've seen are like 2 to 4 or 5 days long. They're not like super long vacations, but now there's like running specific vacations for other like-minded people to all come together. You make a bunch of new running friends. I get to do a bunch of different cool running activities. I saw someone who runs in the group recently went to one and they did a whole bunch of running, but they also did like paddle boarding and yoga on the water and like all kinds of other cool things, just as like different ideas to help recover. So, that's always kind of a cool option. And then also just like the excitement of going to a new place, doing a new thing. Especially if you have to like save up money to go on this trip, like there can be a lot of like hype around it. So, that can always bring out better performances, and just kind of really heighten your experience with your run, right? If like I've been planning for 2 years to go whatever race it is, and it's like I've saved up the money, I have the hotel, all this stuff. So it just kind of makes it like a huge deal, because it is. So I think it kind of just helps instead of being like, oh, I just ran this local race and it was whatever. I feel like you can be more excited, and people can also understand the excitement too, right? It's like you're talking to your non-runner friends. If you're like, oh, I just ran the race down the street, they're probably like, don't you run there every day anyway? But if you're like, I went to wherever, we ran through Disney World and it was so, people can kind of understand the hype better too. So it's helps people relate to you. So I'm pro, not that I don't know if I'm ever going to go on another vacation for running in the near future.
That's it. That's my point right there. So would you, your husband and James go to a race vacation?
Well, honestly, I feel like anytime we discuss vacation, I'm always like, we should go somewhere and I'll do a run. And so like, I do feel like I bring that up anytime we talk about a vacation. And it never really dawned on me until you were just making your points that like, that would mean I'd be forcing Josh to hang out with James for like, especially if it's like a marathon, like, hey, hang out for 4 hours really early and like either watch me or just like wait for me to be done, and then I'll be tired all day. So, in my head, it seems like a good idea, but maybe it's like, 10 years from now, I don't know.
So, I do think it's rough if your spouse isn't into the same activity you are. I think if they're into it though, it's probably awesome. Like if you and your spouse are all excited. I mean, obviously, if there's with children, it's a whole different world we live in, right? So someone's got to take care of this child while I'm running. So while we're running marathons. So I do think if it's you and your spouse, it can be probably a great thing for them, for as a couple to go plan, experience, because it's got both things going on simultaneously. It's got a great vacation with the excitement of a race that you're both looking forward to. So I do think it probably can be a exponentially better time by doing both of them. So based on that argument I just gave you, I'm going to say check mark again.
For me or you? Me?
For you. For you, that's not. But it depends on the circumstances. If that's a check mark, if your spouse is into the same activities you're into.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, whatever works for you. I feel like that's always how we end every argument. It can go either way. All right, our last one for today, extreme weather. So running in extreme weather, is that foolish or not? Is that a good idea?
I got stats on this one.
Yeah, which one do you want?
I'm letting you pick though. You this is your day, I said. So you pick which side do you want? You want to and by the way, you have to help me define, like what are you defining as extreme weather? Because the word extreme there tells me it's not like just a cold day.
Well, I was going to say anytime you get like a weather warning, but I get weather warnings for the dumbest stuff. So
yeah, I get flood watches all the time. And it's like, I'm nowhere near anywhere that floods.
The flood watch, the wind watch, like, you're like, come on.
I think so. We'll say extreme weather is, the word extreme is important. It's the outer edge. It's not everyday weather. It's not your average. It's just raining outside.
Right. It's not raining. It's
extremely cold. It's extremely hot. It's extremely windy, like hurricane, tornado, risk warnings.
Hail,
not just, yeah, lightning. It's not just your, okay. So I guess
extreme.
Yeah. Extreme. It's extreme. Yeah, the word we used was extreme, not just bad weather. It wasn't bad weather. It was extreme weather.
It wasn't crappy weather. It wasn't a bad day. It was extreme. So I want to go no statistics because that just feels like too much today. So I'm going to go pro bravery. Do it.
You're going bravery?
Yeah. So do I go first or you go first?
I'm going to go first because I'm going to, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Only because I can't wait to give you all these stats. Right?
Okay. Let's hear the statistics, please.
So the reason I'm going to say the word extreme was important is if you went on extreme weather, you could die is the real risk here, right?
Yeah.
So it's extreme. It is outside the norm. And do you know how many people die every year from extreme weather? You know what? The government keeps track of that. And the answer is in 2022, 91 people were swept away and killed by floods. 19 people were killed by lightning. This is, by the way, this is just in the US. 22 people were killed by tornadoes. 114 people were killed by hurricanes. 148 people were killed by heat. That is the winner, by the way. Heat was the biggest killer from extreme weather. 97 were killed from winter/cold, and 51 from wind itself. I'm assuming that would be like, hey, it's really windy out, but it's not a tornado, it's not a hurricane. It's windy and a tree and a limb snaps, right? And then finally, 69 people were killed by rip currents. I know that's not really a risk for a runner necessarily, but for triathletes who are doing open water swims, certainly a risk as well. So I'm going to say you're a fool if you go out and you're taking the risk of dying just to get your workout in. There's treadmills. We've talked about treadmills before. This is one of those times where treadmills are ideal to have, or skip the workout and do it tomorrow. Yeah. So, and you know, speaking of extreme weather, not that it's extreme here, but there is a storm going on, and it knocked out my internet. So
I didn't like that you were talking shit.
And I was saying extreme. You know, you go out and just it's just a little bit rainy. You got to go out. Anyway, back to you.
Oh, well, I did not catch all of your argument though.
Oh, so so the argument was basically, did you hear all my statistics?
We got all of the death
all the way through
numbers.
Rip current, all the way through rip current, right? 69 people died from rip currents.
Mm-hmm.
That was my last statistic, and I think that's enough there, right? That's a total of a few hundred people, maybe 500 people range, that were killed in 2022 by extreme weather. I think that's enough to say, no, it's not really worth going out and getting that extra run in, and you can do it at home, do it on your treadmill. And then globally, I would say there was a CBS News that quoted 500,000 people globally over the last 20 years have been killed from extreme weather. So it just feels like it's an unnecessary risk. And why would you take that risk for what? For just an extra run that you could probably do inside? Or change your workout around, do your lifting that day and just do your running the next day? It feels like there's different ways you can do it without risking your life. Back to you on the. I feel like that's the elephant in the room. Is if you're going to go out in extreme weather, you could potentially die. And is it worth it?
Right. So I guess I'm technically not going to argue the opposite because I do not think that you should. I feel like I know sometimes I argue the opposite of things I don't believe, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's dangerous. Do not go out in extreme weather. We see thunderstorms, lightning all the time. Don't do that. Because also the weather can change so quickly. You know, it could be just rain, which yes, we can run in the rain. That's totally fine. But rain can turn to flash flooding, super dangerous when you're running, not just if you're able to be fine, then cars, all kinds of things. Lightning can happen. I'm sure there's like a good science answer to when and why it happens, but that can happen out of nowhere, it seems, right? So just like don't do that. But I will argue what I think someone who would argue will say, right? But I do not think About extreme weather.
Okay, it's on the record. You're not pro extreme weather dying. Okay.
Yes, because I mean, even this past year, throughout the summer, we had lots of like air quality issues, which people weren't, not everyone was considering that even like extreme weather, right? But the air was not safe to be breathing at some points for, sensitive groups, but then it was everybody. And some of it you could visually see, but then there's other places where you couldn't visually see it. Some people could feel it. Some people said they smelled it, but there was a lot going on with the air. And, we advised all runners not to be going out and running. If you wanted to run in your house, in your treadmill, or at the gym, totally fine. But there were a lot of people who were going out and running, and it's like the damage that you're probably doing is not going to, like, you think you're getting an edge because you didn't skip your run or you didn't adjust your workout, but you're probably doing more damage than good. So same thing with the extreme heat this summer too. We had people skip runs, change runs, all those kinds of things. So yeah, but why are people doing this? Because it makes you cool, especially because we live in like the social media age, right? With all those air quality concerns we had, there was constantly people who were outside taking all types of pictures with like the hazy whatever around them because it looks cool. So those are the kinds of things, right? You want the story, you want it to be like, I did this crazy thing.
You know what's not cool? What's
dying.
not cool is being at 50 years old and having an oxygen tank next to you because your lungs are all scarred from the.
Right.
That's just me. I was just saying that.
Not cool. But yeah, so I mean, the whole, especially a lot of us could get into the extreme with running. We're always running farther, we're running longer, we're doing, some kind of crazy challenge, right? So this is just another way I think that people might like think they're leveling up on that crazy. I do the most extreme. I never skip a day. I've been on this 1,000-day running streak. I, no weather's going to deter me. So I think that's oftentimes like the argument people are making, or, you also hear like, you have to prep for your race, right? So like, well, what if there's hail on my race day? I need to be able to harden my skull so I don't get a concussion, right? But also like, and we've seen this, right? Like we've seen races now are getting even more, they're trying to be really careful. I mean, I forget even what big race recently canceled for heat, but they are trying to make sure runners are staying safe. So you don't need to be practicing in those extreme, heat, extreme cold. Race directors don't want to be having, liability on their hands for people running in these bad weather situations. So I don't think we need to be practicing running in a tornado. Like, oh, I'm so strong, I can outrun, whatever 300-mile-an-hour winds or whatever tornadoes are, right? So again, that kind of debunks that argument. But I think people will say, like, I need to be prepared for all weather. And again, it's just another way of like overcoming adversity, right? You become resilient by getting knocked down, getting back up, kind of thing. No. Right. So I'm not even gonna argue that one with you because you start spewing off all of your death statistics. I feel like I can't really be like, it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think the one that feels like it's the biggest risk, and it's actually the one that kills the most, is the heat. Because all of the other ones, it's pretty clear it's lightning out. It's pretty clear that there's a flood, or there's a tornado or a hurricane. But when it's hot, again, I realize if it's 120 degrees, yeah, it's hot. But if you go out for a long run and it's 95 and it's terribly humid out that particular day, we had a partner that works with the firm I used to work with, who, again, fit, healthy guy. He was probably in his 40s or 50s. He ended up basically dying for a few moments of heat stroke, just on a normal day. Again, what seemed like a normal day, just maybe not hydrated enough. Just the heat was too much, the humidity, and died. Was fortunately brought back to life by first responders. So it happens, and I think he can sneak up on people where the other ones, I don't think, it's cold out, it's really cold out, you're in serious danger. Where I think heat, it's like, okay, yes, it's hot, but your body's also producing heat while it's running, and can it get rid of that heat quick enough? And it's just hard to tell sometimes that it is or isn't working. So that's the one I think it kills the most, and it's probably the most one. It's the one that's probably most often missed by runners.
No, exactly. So yes, do not run in extreme heat. Stay safe. You win that one for sure.
Yeah. Well, I picked that one. You let me pick that, that end of it. So it's hard to argue that, oh no, it's a good idea to go run in extreme weather. But I'm with you though. I think that there's a fine line though. It's, there's not really a bright line that says, oh, this is extreme weather. This isn't for something like heat or cold or wind, right? Some of those ones that aren't like necessarily crystal clear. And, you don't want to be, using it as an excuse like, oh, it's not, it's 80 degrees outside. I probably shouldn't go run. Like, oh man, 80 degrees doesn't seem to me like too extreme. Now, again, it depends on who you are and your fitness level and what your doctor recommends. So I'm not recommending that everyone, that an 80-year-old goes out and runs their first run in 80-degree weather. But, you have to sort of not use it as an excuse. And I think if you're using it as an excuse, I think you probably know it, right? I mean, you didn't really feel like doing the run anyway. So like, oh, you know what, the weather, I just looked at the app. It said the weather is like not perfect, so I'm not going to go. That's not extreme weather. Extreme weather is dangerous, a killer weather. It's out to get you.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I feel like that wraps up all of our arguments for today. We thought we were going to be brief, and now we're not brief, and now I'm out of time. So I'm going to have to jump off in like a second. So next week we may have a guest, or we may be doing another one of these. It kind of all depends on how timing shakes out, but there will be guests coming soon. We will be doing some more of these chats. Any questions we want to have like some coach chat about, people, please send them in, either email, comment, review, whatever it is. Send it our way. And thanks, Dad, for the debate. This was always fun.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all the things that you can do for a podcast that you enjoy listening to. Make sure you check out social media, our website, any of those things. If you have questions, comments, interview requests, feel free to email me at marikeyrunclub@gmail.com.